invite the speakers as they are in the program, and when the connection will be restored, we will have Christos Zerefos with us. Κώστα, είναι ο κύριος Ζερεφός σε επικοινωνία, είναι online. Σύνδεσέ το. Ωραία, ωραία. Ωραία.
Okay. Good morning.
An honor and a pleasure to have you here. To start with the panel for the resilience to climate change, natural hazards and pandemic risks and biosafety. Please, you have the floor. It's an honor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'm hearing my voice twice, I don't know why, but I kindly ask Dr. Alexandrakis Georgios from the Foundation for Research and Technology the Institute of Applied and Computational Mathematics, Coastal and Marine Research Laboratory. Dr. Alexandrakis,
can you please remove the mask? We don't hear you. Can you remove the mask?
I have called Dr. Alexandrakis Georgios to take the floor.
Hello, I'm George Alexandrakis. I work in the Foundation of Research and Technology Hellas in Crete in the Coastal and Marine Research Lab. In our recent research fields, we have added the cultural heritage, and mainly cultural heritage that are in the coastal area, other submerged or inland, and we're trying to see how the environmental changes that affect natural areas affect also cultural heritage sites. What we have seen over these years in our research was that those two parts of the coastal area are strongly connected, not only through the natural processes, but also how the socioeconomic and the human interference affects them. So this panel should provide some insight of how scientists that are working in the field in the environment can help to pass some information to scientists that are working on cultural heritage and see this whole, let me say, area as a common ground for addressing and achieving resilience. That's for the starting point. If the others want to continue, thank you.
Thank you. Professor Zerefos.
I would like to call Dr. Konstantinos Alexopoulos, retired General, Defense and Civil Emergency Planning Expert. Mr. Alexopoulos, you have the floor.
Good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank you, Professor Moropouli, for the invitation. I am Major General Konstantinos Alexopoulos, and I will develop a technocratic point of view about resilience to climate change, natural hazard, and pandemic risk biosafety. Climate change poses a significant risk threatening the lives and livelihoods of people. This risk cannot be reduced to zero, which means governments must take decisive action to protect population. Doing so requires planning ahead and putting in place proactive adaptive measures. Building resilience has five basic principles. First of all, build a resilient foundation with rapid and inclusive development. Poverty and lack of access to basic services, infrastructure, financial services, healthcare, social protection are strong predictors of vulnerability to climate change. The poorer communities are the more climate change will affect them. A resilient strategy could be successful if financial, technical, and institutional resources are enough for the three basic resilience capabilities: resistance, recovery, and environmental adaptation. Prepare people and firms. Government organize information strategy on climate risk available, clarify responsibilities, and promote innovative and best technologies. Revise land use plans and protect critical infrastructure. Revision of urban and land use plans influence private investment in housing and productive assets, so it is vital these adapt to evolving long-term climate risks to avoid locking people in high-risk areas. Government ought to protect public investments, assets, services, communications, power, water, energy installations, communications, and transport infrastructure. But if states have accurate databases, risk assessment models, effective decision-making process, trained civil military assistance units, procedures plans, the casualties as well the recovery calls will be smaller. Help people and firms recover faster and better. Governments must organize civil preparedness, crisis management, early warning to ensure that all necessary civil, military, and private actors can cope without devastating long-term consequences and recover rapidly. And the last one is manage impact at the macro level, prioritize according to needs, implement across sectors, and monitor progress. Climate change and natural hazards have direct impacts risks from microeconomic stability, public finances, productivity, debt sustainability, trade balance, and the broader financial sector. Governments must prioritize their plans according to needs and make them compatible with available resource capabilities, implement across sectors, and establish a robust institutional legal framework and ecosystem system for monitoring progress. Biological hazard refers to biological materials in the light of both components, safety and security. Biosafety is the principles, the technologies, and restraint practices applied to prevent accidental exposure to pathogens and toxins. Biosecurity is the protection against malicious use of biological agent or critical relevant information to prevent their unauthorized access, loss, theft, abuse, diversion, or deliberate release. The COVID-19 pandemic promoted the digitalization of economic, social, and political activities and laid the groundwork for new approaches, priorities in international and national security. Cyber biosecurity is a new subsector of global biosecurity, key part of national security strategy, and its main purpose is to investigate the ever-increasing interdependence of cyberspace and biosecurity. Generally, biosecurity investigates the strategic use of cyberspace as a source of information, circulation, extraction to support the effectively implement biosafety policies. And an example of this are the digital governments to respond to the economic, political, and social pressures and effects of the pandemic. Implement cybersecurity policies to protect biotechnological information and data from cyber attacks. Promotes the safe and ethical management of digital medical data government, stored in the information systems in the Ministries of Health and hospitals. Increases the interoperability and security of biometric data, biometrics, especially for future digital passports, but also as procedure for the safe entry of high security installations. Ensures the correct and ethical use of emerging cyber technologies, such as artificial intelligence, which is used to predict biological risk models, but also for the rapid decision-making process in the context of health crisis management. Ensure the constant control of cyber information on biosafety and biopolitics in order to protect the public from fake news or from failed predictions and prediction models that are spread especially on social media by imaginary scientists or organizations. Analyzes and tries to predict the possible effects of cyberspace on human biosecurity, especially in the context of the Internet of Things, where people and devices will be interconnected and interact. As an example,
here we measure the possible future effects of 5G on human health, but also cyber attacks on information control system of planes, ships, cars, to cause accidents with multiple victims. Another example is a possible cyber attack on water tank control systems, resulting in contamination on drinking water to spread disease to the inhabitants of a city. As very important, we will mention the possibility of a cyber attack aimed at destroying information systems in storage of large batches of vaccines, drugs, or equipment to deal with biological threats or pandemics, targeting the maximum social, economic, and political cost in the state. About the resilience ability to deal with mass casualties from climate change, natural hazards, and pandemic risks, a strategy is needed with the following. It is a basic baseline of building strong national resilience that both NATO and EU use. What it needs. First of all, an integrated warning and reporting system to warn the population and alert national service providers and critical infrastructure operators and owners. A comprehensive database inventory of the emergency civil medical capabilities that includes number of hospital, bed capability, antibiotics, casualty decontamination, isolation units, medical corps transport and evacuation capabilities, and biosafety laboratory capabilities. A comprehensive civil-military contingency emergency plan covering all relevant emergency and rapid response services, including a mechanism to establish or shift search capacity and regular exercises. Periodic exercises and trials involve all parties involving to evaluate national arrangements. Closing, my proposal is to build strong national resilience to deal both with security threats and to increase our defense to the natural disaster from climate change with a holistic approach, a civil-military emergency plan. Civil preparedness is the exclusive responsibility of states and requires central planning coordination and risk assessment models. These include natural and civil disaster, interruption in energy, commodity and food supplies, economic crisis, epidemic, pandemics, mass migration, political and social crisis, and threats to internal security from extremism and terrorism that endanger the population and critical national infrastructure. To prevent and overcome such disruptive crises, all relevant authorities and instruments, such as security policy, intelligence, foreign policy, economic policy, the armed forces, police, civil protection, customs and border protection, health and civil aviation authorities, must all of them coordinate and synchronize. In a comprehensive security network, the armed forces have a strategic research role. They can make both quantitative and qualitative contribution as a resilient partner across the entire spectrum of crisis. The Hellenic Armed Forces have clearly shown during the COVID-19 crisis that they can provide rapidly vaccination centers and substantial manpower. The representatives of all departments, institutions, and organizations concerned must meet to make a comprehensive assessment of the situation and contribute to joint planning and decision-making process. Building a strong national resilience is to ensure that all ministries, public agencies, security agencies, and crucial private actors can coordinate their action to develop interoperability, sustainability, flexibility, and mainstream the resilience strategy in all their decisions. Tracking mechanisms continually monitor and evaluate decisions and actions so they can address any challenges and adjust their actions accordingly. Generally, what we need, planning of alternative ways for providing critical government and social services by integrating strong procedures of interrupted use in daily and also in long term. Installation of power information system which will cover the needs of security and cyber defense. Plans, training and exercise with lesson learned registration for improving national procedures arrangement. The training include both scenario drive and tabletop formats such as conferences, seminars and workshops. And the second, functional exercises that are not necessary in order to improve a comprehensive security concept. They serve as regular stress tests for national crisis management system. And the last one, official registration of critical infrastructure and developing flexible and scalable methods to protect them. All the above should be coordinated by a single national authority, and the fragmentation and duplication of efforts by bodies working in parallel on their own or related responsibilities in any occasion should be avoided. Thank you.
Professor
Ladies and
Dimitrios.
gentlemen, dear colleagues, before introducing to you the next speaker, which is Anastasia Hasapi, I would like to present to you my replacement, my associate, Dr. Anastasia Pupku. She's a researcher at the Research Center for Climatology of the Academy of Athens. So both Anastasias are going to be in the floor. Thank you.
We ask the next speaker, who is Dr. Hasapi Anastasia. She's a research scientist at the Center for Research and Technology, and also in the DNA sequence SLR. She's a bioinformatics expert. Please, Dr. Hasapi, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen? Can you see my presentation?
No, we cannot see your presentation.
Okay, let me try again. How about now? Can you see my presentation? It should be. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the organizers for including me in this very interesting conference. As I was kindly introduced, my name is Anastasia Hasapi, and I represent DNA Sequence, which is a startup biotech company that uses innovative DNA sequence technologies and bioinformatics analysis in business operations. Today's topic is biosafety, which very widely is defined by WHO as the analysis and management of risks relevant to human, animal, and plant life, as well as the environment. Now, until quite recently, this was heavily associated, at least to us biologists, with lab safety. However, the term has gained a whole different meaning and importance in the light of the recent pandemic. The dramatic example of COVID has redefined the need for biosafety considerations in all aspects of human activity. These numbers at the bottom of my screen are from a web search that I did this morning. Biosafety is one of the main axes of applications of our company, DNA Sequence. This is the scientific team behind the effort, which consists of scientists of all seniority levels that guarantee the correct application of the cutting-edge technologies that are used. And the main technology that we use and that concerns today's discussion is the metagenomics of built environments. This is a technique that concerns microbial detection. Now, traditionally, microbial detection methods were based on isolation and culture of the microorganism that people do a lot. The disadvantage is that only a small fraction of microorganisms can be cultivated. There are some more advanced genetic methods, such as the RT-PCR, that is now very well known, that increase this identification range, but there is still a big limitation, which is that you have to know what you're looking for in order to find it. And this limitation doesn't exist with MBE. With metagenomic technology, we can have exhaustive identification of all microbial presence in the sample, agnostically, without a priori targeting to find specific microbes. That gives us information that is invisible with other techniques. On top of that, the sampling method is very fast. We have the result in a few hours. It's not invasive to the material that we sample, and it can be used in air, liquids, and surfaces and solids. So this MB is undoubtedly the future in microbial detection. The method is very mature at the research level, but still very innovative at the business level. Currently, there are more than 90,000 publications. There are research centers that have been developed in most developed countries, a few companies here and there, and only one company in Greece. The technology can be used in completely diverse applications. I will mention a few relevant to today's discussion. It is used for biosafety monitoring of public buildings, hospitals, transportation hubs, etc. It can also be used in environmental applications, such as the control of soil fertility due to climatic change or due to natural disasters such as fire, and the control of soil infectivity in industrially charged areas. Moreover, it's used to evaluate the presence of biodeterioration agents in buildings, monuments, and works of art. The workflow we use is circular. First, we plan the sampling strategy, then we perform sampling. The samples are analyzed, their DNA sequence, and the sequences are analyzed with bioinformatic algorithms in order to identify to which microorganisms they belong. Then this list is enriched with other relevant information that helps us interpret those, and produce can be assessed by the responsible authority and act upon them. And this circle can continue. That are taken and their effectiveness. Here are some screenshots of the interactive reporting of the results. And I will mention a few projects and collaborations. Already completed Biosafety, which completed a wide range of program with the Athens Water Supply and Sewage Company in water samples, such as the treatment plants in Crete and Aegea. We have completed soil infectivity control in the Ellinikon Urban Development Project. We have completed biosafety controls in public transportation, specifically in buses. And one of our latest projects has been the control in Athens, in the Athens Naval Hospital. Currently, we're in discussions with the Ministry of Environment for a project on the recently the National Gallery for a project on works of art. And on that note, I will leave you for now. I thank you for your attention, and I will gladly discuss this matter later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Professor Moropoulou. I'm here to inform you and present you two global initiatives that have been taken with respect to the protection of cultural and natural heritage from climate change. The first one, as any good thing, starts with a vision. And the vision in this case has been brought by Professor Zerfos, who has been our moderator in this session, and has to do with a global effort to coordinate all those actors that need to be brought on the table in order to address climate change impacts on cultural and natural heritage. So in this aspect, the Greek government proposed at the UN level the relevant initiative, which was taken up by the General Secretary Antonio Guterres and was included in his report as one of the highlight and very ambitious initiatives to be taken over during the years to come. So as a follow-up of this acceptance of the proposal, there has been a flexible mechanism created at the United Nations level, which is led by the Greek government, the World Meteorological Organization, UNESCO, and UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. And the aim of this initiative is to build bridges between the high-level political decision-making with the countries, with the nations, and make sure that all good practices and information is passed in a bi-directional manner and facilitates all actions that need to be taken for the preservation of cultural and natural heritage from climate change. So up to now, there have been more than 17 countries that have been endorsing this initiative, and they have appointed focal points to follow the coordination that is going to be taken by a coordination unit, which is established already here in Greece. So this is one of the initiatives that I was talking about. So the other initiative, and now being aligned to the subject of this conference, which is digitization, is an initiative that was undertaken within the frame of the Group on Earth Observations. This is an intergovernmental organization that aims at coordinating Earth observation. And when we are talking about Earth observation, we're talking about satellite data, in situ data, the Internet of Things, citizen of science, and all those sources of data in order to tackle with climate change impacts on cultural heritage. And yes, we have been talking about digital cultural heritage. So to put it in a greater context, we are actually already in the era of digital Earth, and we are trying to deliver a digital replica of the entire planet. And you understand that when we are talking about the entire planet, satellites that overlook the planet can certainly serve as a very important and key component. So the intention here is to understand all these relationships between the physical and natural environment, also in society, and also and already Europe has taken some initiatives in this direction through the digital twins, and we are talking about having digital counterparts that have real-time information transmitted to the interested parties to safeguard any aspect of our lives, including cultural heritage. And the second one is Destination Earth. Destination Earth is a part of the European Commission's Green Deal, and it aims at following and promoting all this research that is needed for climate change and the impacts, and also to drive adaptation and mitigation strategies. So, in all these aspects, Earth observation as part of big data is one of the components. Of course, there are many, many others, and very important to include also in this study socioeconomic data. It's a crucial component, and in this initiative in the Group on Earth Observations, which we call it Urban Heritage Climate Observatory, the aim is to develop specific pilots of cultural heritage importance in cities, in World Heritage City, and demonstrate the power that Earth observation, the satellite information, can have in order to create all those layers and information needed that will enable informed decision-making for the preservation of cultural heritage. And we are talking about mapping and of different hazards like landslides, like wildfires, like extreme temperatures, etc. We are talking about providing all those layers needed for conducting a preparedness assessment, producing vulnerability and risks indicators, etc. So you understand very much that the power is great, the potential and the perspectives are great as soon as we holistically and disciplinary address this issue. So is it the right time to do this? Actually, it is. All the policy frames along in the world, in Europe, the Green Deal, the Bauhaus, the new urban agenda point to this, so we should actually take this opportunity to enforce more climate action, exploiting the symbolisms behind cultural heritage, but also exploit this trend and this necessity brought by climate crisis to find the opportunities to preserve in a holistic way, as I said, cultural heritage. So that's my intervention, and I remain at your kind disposal. Thank you.
A great responsibility to take the floor after all the predecedent speakers. It's a great pleasure for me to speak about the resilience of cultural heritage under the threat of climate change, of climate crisis, actually. The first question was, what is new? Why it's not only a threatening by environmental factors, by hazards, that they are diminishing the coherence of the materials, which are distracting structural integrity and which are in a way distracting architectural forms and features and identity. The answer is very clear because of the intensity of the phenomena of weathering. We have to deal with climate change. Thermohydric actors, which are very stressed and very intense. Other problems like earthquakes are actually threatening, stressing materials and historic structures to their destruction. The answer is not only an answer of civil protection, which is very important, and I think it was thoroughly presented by General Alexopoulos, is not only the study of the mechanisms and the phenomena, is mainly to undertake actions as we are going to keep heritage alive. Because if not, there is not any chance to preserve heritage from climate change. Hence, the strategy has to go beyond diminishing the environmental causes, as was the strategy 30 years ago. Is another strategy. Is the strategy to keep heritage alive in a way that it will be capable to be preserved, to be resilient to the climate crisis. And this requires what we are going to discuss in the panels later on in this conference. That means concerning islands, mountains, isolated areas, a sustainable development plan based on the exploitation of natural as well as cultural resources. Some 10 years ago, when Roko Zarnic was the Minister of Environment of Slovenia, he introduced to the European Union this concept that there has to be a joint exploitation of natural and cultural resources. And now, as we did 38 years ago at UNESCO and at OECD to present the concept of sustainable development, which is now implemented, we are here to address through these concepts and tools climate crisis. And concerning historic cities or historic centers, where we will have to deal here at the panel, the relevant panel, with Athens and Rhodes, critical masses of historic buildings as infrastructures, 1,500 owned by the municipality of Athens, or 340 owned by the municipality in the medieval city of Rhodes, due to the vacancy developed after the Italians left from the Deccanese, they are developing a huge opportunity. So it's not a matter of a technical intervention. There are technical solutions to avert the impacts of the climate change, but it's a matter of a conception how to reuse all these infrastructures which are represented our cultural identity in order to develop an alive environment. And within an alive environment, with informed societies that will be able to handle in lifelong terms of sustainability their infrastructure, our identity will be preserved. So, Dr. Gerasopoulos, concerning your very important pilot programs for pilot cities, you have to consider this. And we are keen to work within a framework. We are looking forward to develop alliances, interconnections through which the environment, including the cultural environment, will be kept alive. In this sense, it will be capable to be resilient as well. Thank you very much.
Professor Moropoulos, thank you very much for your speech. And shall we continue now with the next speaker, who is Dr. Panteletti Giuseppina. She's Research Director of the National Research Council in Roma and also member of the European Materials Research Society. Dr. Panteletti, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And for the kind invitation to these very important events. Thank you, Professor Moropoulos. I am here, I suppose, because also I coordinated.
Dr. Panteletti, we cannot hear you.
Europe. I don't know how to manage. Sorry, could you hear me?
We can hear you now. Now it's okay.
Okay. Could you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, and only once, not double, so it's perfect.
Good, perfect. Okay. So I recently coordinated a European project, Heracles, dealing with heritage resilience against climate change events on sites. This project studied, experimented on sites located in Greece and in Italy, and dealing with sea level rise and hydrogeological risks. We were dealing with monuments and also with historical cities, just reminding the important consideration made by Professor Moropoulos. And starting from the user needs, the project proposed a pioneering and innovative approach, starting from an integration, the need of integration from a wide area observation from satellite that were including information on the monuments, on the city, but also on the surrounding territory, to the observation on site of single elements of the monument, of the assets or site. And in that way, Heracles defined a multidisciplinary methodological approach for procedures, for protocols, assessing the cultural heritage asset status in terms of structural condition, materials, characterization, assessing the degradation processes and also the status of the territory around the asset. And also was realized and used an integrated monitoring system, including information from meteorological, environmental, oceanographic, structural, chemical-physical information. Moreover, new material and solution were designed for helping in preventive maintenance and conservation. And last but not least, activities for improving the societal awareness and the sense of belonging of the local communities were considered and carried on, because we strongly believe that these help and highlight the importance of the cultural heritage maintenance and preservation for the local communities, because they are living on, these are a living cultural heritage, are not only ruins, let me say. And so I am here today to share our experience in view of finding here, together with you, to find a shared and effective solution to face the cultural heritage challenge and improve the sustainability, maintenance, and life of cultural heritage. In the afternoon, in session 2, Professor Alessandrakis will present a contribution from the Heracles project in terms of protocols and measure how to deal with the study and and assessing the problems affecting cultural heritage assets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fratelletti. And we continue with the next speaker, Dr. Papadakis Vangelis, who is professor at the University of Patras at the Department of Environmental Engineering. Professor Papadakis, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Greetings to all, and many thanks to the scientific and organizing committee for this honorary invitation. I'm really very happy to be with you, even in this way, so that we can discuss and contribute further to approaching and resolving these critical issues. The issues of the impact of environmental actions on cultural monuments, and in particular on ancient monuments made of marble and stones, are very well known. Environmental actions are the result of various mechanisms which, for research purposes, we classify them into mechanical, physical, chemical, and biological attacks. The mechanical mechanisms of different types, imposed or not, will then be analyzed in other panels by distinguished colleagues. The physical, chemical, and biological mechanisms and their effect on ancient stone and marble monuments have also been studied in the past. I have to say that I would like to mention the emblematic work of Professor Skoulikidis of National Technical University of Athens on the plastering of the marbles of the Acropolis of Athens, the efforts to reverse the reaction, and the successful instruction for their protection, and how these are successfully, of course, continued by the research groups of Professor Moropoul and other good colleagues. For my part today, however, I would like to turn our attention to the modern cultural monuments, which are predominantly made of reinforced concrete, such as religion monuments, museums, cultural sites, buildings of special architectural value, etc. And this will be our cultural heritage to future generations. I said before, the majority of them is made of concrete, the most widely used building material of nowadays. Of course, its good performance in service, including durability, is the second important characteristic after the usually required mechanical properties. However, the last decades, the problems of unsatisfactory durability of structures especially reinforced concrete ones, are in a dramatic increase as a result of the climate change, among other reasons. This causes and
Professor
economic
Papadakis,
impacts as well,
excuse me,
because the repairing expenses of deteriorated structures are almost equal to the cost of construction of new ones. We know that deterioration of building materials in service is every loss of performance, and it may be the result of a variety of mechanical, physical, chemical, or biological processes as referred. Concrete and cement products in general are also susceptible to all these types of deterioration.
Professor
The final
Papadakis,
result of these
sorry, can you
mechanisms
hear me?
is
Can
mainly
you hear me,
cracking.
please, Professor
I will
Papadakis?
focus, however, in the sequence on chemical processes and how they are connected with climate change and environmental pollution. The chemical processes causing concrete deterioration can be divided into two categories according to the medium they influence: concrete or reinforcement. In the first category belongs the chemical attack of aggressive substances, ions, and molecules on concrete. These reactions may take many years to show their detrimental effect. For practice, however, the most important chemical attacks on concrete are the acid, the sulfate, and the alkali attack. A few words about the action of acids on concrete is practically a conversion of all the calcium compounds to the calcium salts of the attacking acid. These salts are soluble and can be removed by dissolution or abrasion. It depends. Acids, just to say that it can be created for various pollutants, various gaseous oxides, such as sulfur oxides or nitrous, etc., and their reaction with water. For instance, we have the creation of this acid rain, and we all know the consequences. We have also sulfate attack, alkali attack, etc. I will not go further on this. I would say that this type of damage has not been significantly affected by climate change, but they are severe if a high environmental pollution remains. Now goes to reinforcing bar. These are protected, as we know, from corrosion by this high alkalinity they have due to surrounding concrete. And of course, this corrosion may start when this protective layer is destroyed either by chlorides, when we are close to the sea, or when the pH value, the alkalinity, destroyed. The pH value drops below 9 in the neighborhood. That happens by the effect of by the phenomenon of carbonation of concrete. In other words, the diffusion of atmospheric carbon dioxide into the concrete pores, and then its reaction with the carbonatable products of concrete. So we are coming now in this conclusion that especially in carbon dioxide rich urban and industrial areas, carbonation of concrete is the main mechanism leading to steel corrosion. As carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere increases, this phenomenon is further accelerated, and it is getting very serious and detrimental for the structures and the monuments made of reinforced concrete. Efforts to study this phenomena in modern monuments should therefore be intensified, and construction and repair regulations should be tightened. We need fundamental modeling of this phenomena under climate change conditions and smart ideas for mitigation and adaptation technologies. On the other hand, I would say it is a unique opportunity to reverse the severe influence and concrete to act as a safe and effective material for carbon content sequestration, for example, by using several techniques as recarbonated recycled concrete aggregates on massive non-reinforced concrete structures, etc. That's all from my part at the moment. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Papadakis. And shall we continue with the next speaker, which is Dr. Paya Emanuel. He is a researcher at the University of Ferrara at the Department of Architecture. Dr. Pia, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, good afternoon to everyone, and it's for me a great honor to take part in this really important discussion panel. As already introduced this morning, today, our historical building, archaeological site, and cultural landscape is facing a number of challenges. The cultural heritage is subject to high deterioration caused by different types of risk. We have mentioned the natural hazard, climate change, but also man-made disaster and sometimes lack of financing or insufficient valorization. Unfortunately, today, disasters, many of which are caused by climate change, are increasing in terms of frequency and in terms of intensity, with significant economic, social, health, cultural, and environmental impact in the short, medium, and long term. The severe effect of the persistent, unfortunate COVID-19 pandemic on our health and socioeconomic sector are a start warning of the danger of insufficient preparation. For this reason, in this therefore of the climate change and on the cultural heritage, I believe that is really necessary and urgent to propose a common goal to sustain or preserve and protect cultural heritage for present and future generations, and also plan for and reduce disaster risk in order to more effectively protect persons, communities, and countries within, including cultural heritage. In the last year, numerous international committees have been made dedicated to the climate change. I mean, the European Green Deal, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, the UN Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, but also the 2030 agenda dedicated to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, with particular attention to the goals 11 to protect and safeguard the world cultural and natural heritage, and the Sustainable Goal 13 dedicated to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. This commitment within the research project Horizon 2020 4CH, dedicated to the development of the new European Competence Center for the Conservation of Cultural Heritage, we are working and investigating, identify good practices and innovative measures for the protection of cultural heritage in relation to the risk. This part of research activity will provide the next future information to organize the knowledge base of the competence center recommendation at European level, but also at national level. Some suggestions for the next future regarding dedicated to increase the resilience to climate change and natural hazard. I would like to propose an integrated approach to cultural heritage management that will propose the engagement of citizens and local communities. There is, in my opinion, a need for the public and private sector and civil society organization, as well as academia and scientific and research institutions, to work more closely together and to create some more opportunities for collaboration. Another one suggestion is to improve the disaster risk reduction of cultural heritage, adopting a multi-hazard approach and inclusive risk-informed decision-making, based on the open exchange and dissemination of disaggregated data. In this field, is important to promote the collection, analysis, management, and use of relevant data and practical information, and ensure its dissemination, taking into account the needs of different categories of users as appropriate. Last but not least, cultural heritage offer, in my opinion, an immense and virtual untapped potential to drive the climate action and support a just and equitable transition by communities toward low-carbon, climate-resilient development pathway. I believe that it is important to also consider the cultural heritage as part of the solution to reduce the climate change, and at the same time to increase its resilience to the climate change. At European research level, many results have been achieved in the last year within the Horizon 2020 framework program, but it is now important to continue in this direction also within Horizon Europe. In conclusion, I would like to invite all scientific community, national government, stakeholders, citizens to continue to propose solutions and action to contrast the climate change and to improve the resilience of the cultural heritage to natural hazard, because the cultural heritage not only reflect our past, but also shape our present and build our future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anya, for your speech. I think that it was very much obvious the fact that to preserve and to protect, of course, the natural and cultural heritage, of course, we need to have an interdisciplinary approach. And of course, we need also the political decision for that. There is time for discussion of some questions. I don't know if you would like to ask something. Or any comments?
Am I going to present? This is Phoebe Kunduri.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Kunduri. Yes, please. Sorry. So yes, the next speaker is also Professor Kunduri Phoebe. She's a professor at the Athens University of Economics and also President-elect of the European Association of Environmental Resource Economists. Please, Professor Kunduri, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly share my screen and go as quickly as possible through some initiatives and projects we run. So we are focused on these multiple crises, solution pathways. At the moment, we have COVID, the huge recession that derives from COVID, climate change, and biodiversity collapse. And we know that the world as a whole is as resilient as the last person and last country in it. So I lead an international cluster for research on sustainability transition, focusing on research and innovation that can be transformed into sustainability action. The cluster is composed of the institutions that I chair or co-chair, the Research Laboratory on Socioeconomic and Environmental Sustainability at the Athens University of Economics and Business, the Sustainable Development Unit at Athenam Research Center, focusing on information technology solution pathways together with the green pathways. So we are focusing on the twin green and digital transition to sustainability. The Athena Research Center is the biggest information technology research center in the country. And EIT Climate KIC, the European Institute of Technology, Knowledge and Information Community that finances and incubates innovations that are relevant to climate neutrality so that they achieve accelerated research commercialization. So making it to the market and achieving mass deployment of these technologies in order to accelerate the transition to sustainability. In these research institutions, we run many research and innovation projects and global initiatives, and as well a deep demonstration projects and innovation acceleration. What we do here is also supported by the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, a global initiative under the auspices of the General Secretary of the United Nations. I co-chair the European and Greek Hub, and our mandate here is to communicate the research and innovation that is produced in universities and research centers across the globe. and to the other stakeholders that are relevant for the sustainability transition. So we communicate our results to politicians, policymakers, businesses, financial institutions, NGOs, the civil society as a whole. This network is the biggest network on sustainability transition in the world, composed of hundreds of thousands of members. And it's led by Professor Jeff Sachs at Columbia University. So as I told you, we work on research and innovation, innovation acceleration, deep demonstration, education and training, and developing the science policy interface that will be instrumental for the transition to sustainability. Let me, with regards to education and training, let me quickly refer to the SDG Academy, which is an open mass course for all issues on sustainability, and taught by the best professors in the world. Let me refer to our virtual reality Sustainability Lab for educating entrepreneurs and investors at Athena Research and Innovation Center, and master courses at the Athens University of Economic and Business on the laws and economics in energy markets. So science is driving this transition, but in order to implement the solutions that science and innovation is producing, we also need the policy framework. And if I had to summarize the policy framework in one minute, that would be the SDGs, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and the 169 targets within them, the Paris Agreement, the European Green Deal. The Paris Agreement refers to limiting global average temperature increase to well below 2 degrees Celsius. And now we've established that 1.5 degrees Celsius is what we have the technology to enable sustainment of the welfare of the societies. Beyond that, detrimental effects in terms of lost lives and financial losses will be very harsh for the globe to handle. The European Green Deal is Europe's leadership example of an implementation of a sustainability transition for access, climate neutrality, protect human life from pollution, clean tech leadership for European companies, and a just transition, leave no one behind. And even after the non-linearity of COVID, we know that the Next Generation EU, which includes the Recovery and Resilience Plan, is focused on this green and digital transition and makes available 750 billion in addition to the MFF, the multi-annual financial framework of the EU, to be invested in projects that are 37% climate, that are 37% climate relevant and 20% digital relevant. And this year we have the European Climate Law and its transposition into the Greek Climate Law, which was supported by the Climate Committee, Greek Climate Committee, which Professor Zerefort heads, and I am honored to be part of it. We have the EU taxonomy explicitly identifying which investments can be considered sustainable, and also proposing a corporate sustainability directive, which digitally tags and monitors and assesses all the information that are reported in the sustainability reports. And of course, we have the Fit for 55 package, which is 13 legislative proposals that are changing all the regulations that are relevant to climate policies. Changing the emissions trading system, effort sharing regulation, the regulation for the land system, the regulation for the carbon border adjustments tax, the regulation for renewable energy, the energy efficiency directive, and all the regulations that have to do with mobility, fuels, cars, vans, aviation, and shipping. And all this is going on not just in Europe, but across the world. We have pledges across the world for climate neutrality around mid-century, 2050, 2060, China, 2070, India. However, what we need to be careful about, and this was the main thrust of the last COP that I was happy to join as one of the observers and presenters in various sessions, is that the policy framework, it's there only in Europe. Across the world, we have pledges, but mainly not pledges that have the transposition into policies, laws, and regulations, which is the only way to accelerate the transition. We, as UNSDSN Europe, with more than 400 member institutions, as I said before, I co-chair this network. We produce 2 reports every year: the Sustainable Development Report, which measures the implementation of each and every SDG in each and every European country, with indicators for each of the 169 targets within the SDGs. We also publish a second report, which I call it with Jeff Sachs, which focuses on the transformations for the joint implementation of the SDGs and the European Green Deal, and how we can achieve a green, digital, job-based, and inclusive recovery from COVID-19. And basically what we do here is connecting the 4 major policy initiatives: the SDGs, the European Green Deal, the European semester process, the EU Next Generation, to support policymakers with actionable strategies that can guide EU-wide and national economic recovery in line with Europe's overarching sustainability agenda. First, we showcase with machine learning approaches the close consistency between the European Green Deal and the SDGs. Then for each and every country, and this is the SDG achievement for Greece, red means major challenges in achieving the SDG remains. Orange means significant challenges. Yellow means challenges remain. And green means the SDG has been achieved. As you see, no SDG has been fully achieved in Greece. However, what is hopeful is that the level of achievement is also reflected in the semester process of the European Commission. So every 6 months, the European Commission produces advice, recommendations for each and every country of Europe, a member state, where it indicates where the country needs to improve macroeconomic policies. We cross-map the recommendations with the level of achievement of the SDG, and we see in Greece 80% alignment with regards to the low achievement of the SDG and existence of a relevant recommendation from the semester process. Overall, there is 72% alignment between SDG achievement and European Green Deal semester recommendations. And what is needed here is not to argue whether it's the European Green Deal or the SDGs, the relevant framework, but to understand that they are consistent, and what we need is very detailed technological and investment pathways for each and every country, including pathways for the renewable energy, circular economy, nature-based solutions, climate adaptation projects, and of course, digitalization projects, and also conceive these pathways in a systems approach, simultaneously addressing multiple objectives and promoting the right mixture of policy instruments and technological solutions. In our report, we identify the technological solutions that make up the optimal mixture in the power sector, the industry sector, the transport sector, the building sector. And we also work in FABLE consortium, which showcases the optimal technological pathways for the sustainable land use sector. Then we also touch upon the need not just of technological pathways, but also finance pathways, how to finance this transition. And there we recommend reconceptualization actualization of our financial missions and stability, both at the macro level, at the European Investment Bank and European Investment Fund, at the meso level, that is the national public investment organizations, to provide positive sources of long-term patient finance which support sustainable investing, and at the micro level, as per the request of the EU taxonomy and the new corporate sustainability directive, which basically focuses on increasing the capacity of companies to understand that those that switch towards sustainable practices soon as will be most competitive, most innovative, and most successful over time. Of course, in this transition pathway, we need to be inclusive. We need this transition to leave no one behind. And we know, we have estimated that the European Green Deal will lead to approximately 1 million new jobs in energy and energy-related sectors, and additional jobs in other sectors. These jobs will be highly skilled positions requiring substantial training. So we need to invest in substantial upskilling and reskilling programs. Also, we showcase in a general equilibrium macroeconomic model that it is possible to mitigate the regressive effects of climate taxes. Climate taxes will have regressive effects on some part of the population, but it's possible to use their revenues through lump sum transfers, use these revenues to finance targeted energy efficiency measures, job retraining programs, and funding of subsidies for new low carbon technologies in order to mitigate the effects of climate taxes, increase equity in all regions of Europe, increase GDP and increase employment while achieving the climate neutrality and climate resilience. Finally, what is important is to understand that the developed world needs to show solidarity to the developing world that does not have the fiscal space to finance a green and digital transition. And this can only happen through increasing lending to multilateral development banks to provide low-income developing countries funding. And this is what we hope to achieve with the 4 major UN conferences, the Food System Summit that took place early this autumn, G20 in October, COP in November, and the UN Biodiversity Conference. All this provided consistent results that showcase how the developing world can follow detailed technological, should focus on developing these detailed technological financial policy pathways that can accelerate the transition, but also care for the global south, because without the global south on board of this transition, the geopolitical stability cannot guarantee. And one instrumental aspect of this transition is, of course, education. And in UNSDSN, we have launched Mission 4.7 that brings together leaders from government, academia, civil society, and businesses to accelerate the implementation of education for sustainable development around the world. This is a new initiative of SDSN, UNESCO, and the Ban Ki-moon Institute. I want to close with a very quick snapshot of our on the 4 different areas that we work. These are our projects. Each slide is a different project with its own consortium and its own budget. We work firstly on climate change mitigation adaptation and the green digital just recovery pathways in a systems innovation approach, co-designing with the stakeholders. We also work on sustainable seas and ocean with a big accelerator, accelerating innovations relevant to climate neutrality and decarbonization of shipping. An SDSN initiative on sustainability transition of the blue growth or blue economy sector in the Mediterranean, the Caspian, and the Black Sea and the Aral Sea, and many projects on energy production from the sea, marine spatial plan, planning, shaping ecosystem-based fisheries, multi-use offshore platform, reduction of plastics in ocean and circular economy. Our third priority is water, food, energy nexus, smart agriculture and smart urban water systems. Very important for the transition to sustainability. I'm very honored to receive lately the ERC Synergy Grant Award, a 10 million award from the European Research Council on designing the next generation of urban drinking water systems. Finally, and as I indicated before, we work on research commercialization, innovation acceleration, and deep demonstration. We are honored to call it the EIT Climate Kick Hub of Greece with the Academy of Athens and provide our support to the transition of innovation from the research lab to the market so that we achieve deployment in mass scale, which is, as you all know, the major mobilizer of this transition. This sustainability transition can be only made possible through technological advancement, and we are lucky that we are at a point in time where the technology has been made available at cost-efficient prices compared to fossil fuel. I hope that the relevant technologies will be adopted, the financing will be there, and the policy will be there to accelerate their mass deployment. Thank you very much for your patience.
Professor Koudouris, thank you very much for the variety of the activities that you presented us, and also for setting, let's say, the institutional, political, and financial framework in which we have to act the years to come. We have about 10 minutes for some questions or for further discussion. So I would like to ask you if you have any questions to our speakers. Probably I can ask a question to Dr. Hasapi. Your presentation was really very interesting, and I would like to ask you which are the main challenges that you think that we have to face in the years to come with respect to biosafety, considering also the climate change issue.
Okay, thank you for your question. This is, the term biosafety we knew before, but it has taken a completely different dimension now. And I think it's a very good time to set the correct basis for the problems that are to come. And we see a lot of them. One main part is the biosafety in human activities regarding cases like the pandemic we're experiencing now. And I think it's a very good time to set the basis for control before having to go into mitigation measures. So this is one big aspect towards which we're working. That's why we are proposing systematic monitoring of places where people meet, of hubs such as the transportation hubs, the public buildings, etc. But also with climate change, we see a lot of problems in the environmental sector as well. For example, this is a very interesting discussion we have been having on the soil fertility and to which extent after a natural disaster such as fire, we can help with the recuperation of the land that has been destroyed. So we have to, I think, make good use of the new technologies that are arising in order to solve in an interdisciplinary manner the problems that we are facing with global warming and with climate change.
Thank you very much for your answer. Any question from the audience on site or virtual?
I had a question. Natasha, is that okay? Yep. Okay. Okay, so I have a question, assuming that I come from the data provider point of view, and I know if there's an answer to this question, but at least it will show.
May I ask then Dr. Gerasopoulos?
Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. So I'm already talking. So the question is the following. So we are in a position that periodically we are updating the parameters that, for example, satellites can provide to us. Or we are also in this consortia who decide upgrades in the different modes of Earth system models, of climate models. So from your community, what is the level of maturity with respect to which parameters should be monitored or projected through the models in the future? For us, it's very essential to come to a stage to decide that, okay, these parameters are really essential and we should put focus on those. So what is the current stage in this aspect?
I don't know if Professor Papadakis would like to answer as well, but I could say that there are phenomena at the interface of materials to environment, and these phenomena concern the development of various parameters that are critical, like, for instance, what is happening within the pores of the materials. What are the thermohydric developments within the pores? What are the mass and energy transfer phenomena, and how acute are the impacts? For instance, salt crystallization, ice development, or other tensions that are destructive for the materials. And more actually, for instance, the crystallization pressures are, if they are over-exceeding the stress strength of the material, then we have disruptive effects. And this is having a structural impact as well. So it seems that from all the studies of the mechanisms to which I was referring, mechanisms of weathering, which are intensified due to climate change, we might gather all the critical parameters and trying to shield the material's resistivity according these physicochemical and mechanical and biological as well phenomena, we could get the materials and structures adapted to the phenomena of climate change. But that was the approach 30, 40 years ago. And of course, what Professor Papadakis said was very crucial. I mean, what the past Professor Skoulikidis had discovered about these mechanisms was fundamental. Then our work went towards the porous phenomena, and we actually discovered the impact of environment. But all of this might be handled only under the hypothesis, the working hypothesis, that there is development there is reuse, that heritage is alive. Because the strategy of 40 years ago was a strategy to safeguard heritage, not to restore it, not to invest a lot in heritage. Today, if we do not restore, and the pre-requirement is to reuse in order to restore, otherwise we don't have revenue, and if we don't have revenue, we cannot invest. So it's another conceptual approach. And this has to apply the principles of circular economy, because if not, you cannot go towards shielding heritage, materials, and structures from the destructive phenomena.
Thank you.
Well, concerning your question about what data and what periodical monitoring we need, well, in my opinion, my experience, it depends on what we need to observe. For example, if we need to observe a large site like Pompeii, like I don't know, like Machu Picchu, you need data that covers the whole building. So you are okay with satellite data. You may have some INSAR data to model the formations. But if you go to a detail that is a wall in a building or something smaller, this cannot be achieved by satellite. So you need to compare both Earth observation, in situ modeling, apply a lot of sensors. So it's not about what I have to do with the satellites. Satellites, from our experience, and especially in Heracles, as Giuseppina Padeletti may want to add, is that Earth observation is not enough. We must have also in situ measurements, and to add to Professor Moropoulou, in a living heritage site, it's more easy to achieve that, because you can install in a living site stations and sensors to be monitored. So having live heritage also helps preserving and monitor better. Thank you.
The comments, Professor Sindrakis. Of course, I agree completely on that. And in fact, what we experienced with our project was the importance of have available an integrated monitoring system, not only the satellite and also not only the few sensors on site, but of course it depends on the problem that you have to face. The problem, the needs of, let me say, the end user, meaning with end user the cities, the sites, or is driven what you have to put in place.
And that's why it is very important to co-design all the interventions with the relevant stakeholders. Whatever science recommends, it could be excellent, it could be holistic, integrated, but unless you integrate the stakeholders in the discussions of the developments, unless you co-design with them the future vision so that they understand why they need to change something and how to change it, and what will be the effects, the beneficial effects on them, then implementation is indeed very, very difficult in any country, in any continent. So I totally agree with what has been just said.
Any more question, or have you got anything more to add?
Another culture, the stakeholders have to be open. If they are closed,
if you want,
if they believe this monument belongs to them,
the comments,
and
of course,
should not be
I agree.
monitored, then it is not resilient and it is not sustainable. So we need urgently another culture for online monitoring and open access systems, because without control and without developing the conscience of the society about the evolution of the preservation state of a monument, then there is no preservation. If you close the Wi-Fi, for instance, in Holy Sepulchre, then you do not monitor anymore. That's a great problem.
Involvement of the local societies is a guarantee of the success of the process, because they should and they can be principal actors, very important in the preservation.
We need the exploration of 5G technologies, and certainly for remote places where we cannot have the service there, we do need the 5.0 industry technologies in machine-to-machine communication, because we certainly lack education in our services for people that use these technologies, but however you can see it, we cannot be there all the time. So, for example, now at Delphi, we are doing a pilot program for monitoring and controlling emergency situations based on the civil protection protocols, like IOLOS or Dardanos, which I'm responsible for. Well, in order to coordinate the movements, you need to exercise preemptive maintenance. You need to have the data, and you need to have real-time analysis of the data in order to take decision makings with multi-purpose ideas. That's not possible right now because we cannot communicate. So we can get the data from the Arakova Center, for example. We can get data from 100 kilometers, from satellite, from everybody. But who's going to read it? Who's going to translate it? And who's going to move in the next 3 minutes? We have calculated in state of emergency at Delphi that if the south wind begins at 5 before level, we have 3 minutes to evacuate the space. That's zero data. That's 0 point of time. So what we need, all of us, is the infrastructure first.
Yes, I fully support your proposal that, first of all, what we need in order to have a basic resilient capabilities is a single national authority, someone to coordinate all these actors. Because in the past, everything was according to the state. Now it's not only the state. There are a lot of intergovernmental organization, and then a lot of other critical services like communications, like harbors, are in private actors. So all these governmental, civil military actors, so private actors must have one central coordination in order to achieve and have results. In any occasion, what I believe we need, it is a coordination in 3 levels. First of all, in operational level, crisis management established in national level, in strategic level, to establish strategic tools with a certain strategic course of action that will be fully accepted, and also all the actors will know about their use. And at the final level, in political or tactical level, as we say in armed forces, you must able to have a rapid recovery, to establish also rapidly communication corridors, and first of all, to have clear problem solving. And in order to apply it, you must also have the funds in order to apply it. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank, is Roko Zarnec the final intervention, because we have to finish the panel, please.
Thank you. I was provoked this stakeholders issue. It's very important, a public awareness and stakeholder understanding. Governments, experts, we can do everything. We have to be accepted. So we have to popularize this. And one of the first things we have to do is to think about how to explain what are culture heritage services. We know what are ecosystem services. We have to talk about what heritage is offering to us. For us, it's clear, but stakeholders and then the public audience. Because you have always complained, oh, what government, what they want, what these researchers want money. So we have to find the ways. To find these ways, we have to express us more clear and more structured. We should not talk about everything on the same. Information should be concise, concentrated, and not too many of them. One who needs more we have in our pocket. So this strategy is very important, especially for you, what you know, what is going on, how we have to promote, we have to use the media, we have to advertise us, because taxpayers need to know what they are paying. Thank you.
I would like to thank Professor Zerefos, Dr. Pupko for the moderation, and all of the panelists for their valuable contribution, and ask you to pass to the gallery for a small luncheon, and then we continue at 3 o'clock here with the next panel. Thank you very much.